I've noticed that Americans tend to hand the children off to the mother and then tell the father to pay. But it's like, why not give the child to the primary provider instead of making the woman suffer with the kids? Well, you see all these situations where a lot of American or Western women are complaining about being single mothers. Oh, it's so hard, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if the father is willing, they should go to him instead of being with her. And it's also been proven that children are better off living with a single father than a single mother. And I know that may ruffle a few feathers, but it's been proven. Like, single fathers raise children better. He knows that I prefer to not even have my space walked on. And that's just part of that only child syndrome. I'm not used to sharing. I'm not used to noise because I didn't grow up in a house full of people. I only had my mother and my father who were out of the house most of the time and the nanny. So I'm not used to a lot of noise. I'm not used to hearing people screaming and kids screaming everywhere. I'm not used to that. I'm used to quiet.
How do you feel like your upbringing affects your relationships now?
Mm, being honest, I would say I'm the oldest out of nine, and I'm the oldest grandchild. I was always in private school, always. But one of the things that I have noticed is that my dad especially put a lot of responsibilities over my shoulders because he was a single father. And even though I was still with my grandmother, I was in charge of my little sister. And then he was having more kids. Eventually, I was responsible for those kids as well. So I never had a nanny. I was the one in charge in the house. I was the one doing everything. I was the one cooking. I was the one doing everything in the house. So that was a lot of responsibility over my shoulders. So sometimes it may seem like I am bossy, but I am not. It's just that I am in the role already. Like, I don't ask for directions. I don't ask for, okay, this is what I'm going to cook. I don't ask, what do you want to eat? It's like, this is what it's to eat. Because, little things like that, that it may seem like not an issue for other people, but for someone was an issue because they really want to be involved in everything. So I, it's not, sometimes it's like asking for salt. People will say like, give me the salt. That's not the type of bossiness, because I will still say, can you pass me the salt, please? That's manners, that's different. But bossy in a way that you should go in this direction, because I already know the path. So I would say that affected me, and I try to control it in a way. But other than that, I would say my grandma did a great job, because I still have a traditional mindset in a way, because I do believe the way that she was, assisting my grandfather, that I don't see submissiveness as a slavery or nothing like that. So actually, there is a pleasure when you try to serve someone, and you don't expect nothing in return. You just do it because it if it gives you something. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, that's
No, I agree, and I've heard you on other panels speak about your upbringing, and it sounds like you're very well rounded and it's very balanced. It doesn't lean like one way or the other. It's more like you want there to be like an understanding between both sexes. So
yeah. But I think something that I could relate with Carmen when she mentioned that she was the youngest, I could tell that in my siblings, my dad treating them differently. But since I was the oldest, I am the responsible for everything. I shouldn't be giving no bad examples, and the my youngest sister, she started doing drugs at a very very early age. So that's why when Amir said like, bring that back, the spanking, I was like, yes, please do it, because I received some of those, a lot, and my siblings didn't. So that's why they are the way they are now. And my dad doesn't have to ask me for coffee. He doesn't have to. Like, when I see him, I'll get some coffee and give it to him. But with my other siblings, the youngest one, he literally has to ask for stuff. And sometimes he'll be like, I cannot even ask them for favors because they don't do it. I don't count on them, which is the opposite when he's with me, or like, when I'm around. So I can tell the difference when you're raising your kids in a different way.
Because I was around my grandparents all the time. That was like that was my model. That was what I was like. When I got married, I was like, it was like do or die. This is gonna work. because of my grandparents, like they just showed me like that, like this is what I want. This is the relationship that I want as well. And when I was about to get married, I was actually, really deep into my cycling. I was actually getting ready to turn pro, and my coach at the time was like, "Don't get married." It's like, no. I was like, I have to. I mean, it's like in my family, like it's strong. Relationships are strong, and like, it's just part and parcel of the package. And he was like, if you want to be, a successful cyclist, you want to be a pro, don't get married. So I said, no, I'm doing this. And I did get married. And that ended the relationship with my coach. He pretty much like kicked me to the curb. But he was very correct because of the lifestyle of a cyclist. It was like, unless you have uh, a woman that's actually there for you and part of the package, like, understands what you do, it just is not going to work. And I think that's of any sport. So,
So do
they
you
have
feel
to,
like your grandmother supported your grandfather? Is that what you saw from their
yeah,
relationship?
yeah,
And you kind of wanted a woman that was going to do that for you,
yeah.
like be
She
supportive of
was,
your dreams?
she was super supportive. Like my grandpa would sit in his chair on the porch reading his newspaper or whatever. And she'd get up to do something and she'd say to him, do you want a cup of tea? And if I was there, she would like, you want a cup of tea as well? And I'd get a cup of tea. So that's what I saw growing up. Like, someone who takes care of, the, the husband. So that's what I was looking for. That's what I thought I would get. But it, I was I'm very traditional, very traditional. And I hope I don't step on any toes, but my wife is more of a modern woman, independent, strong, whatever. She made the most money because I was obviously cycling. Cycling career doesn't make a lot of money, but you do make something. So yeah, she was a breadwinner, and that dynamic just
Now,
didn't
would you
work.
say that your mom was a modern woman?
No, my ex-wife.
No, I mean, so you said your grandparents were very traditional, but your mom and dad, would you call your mom modern?
Um, no, my mom was very traditional. My dad was a Rolling Stone, so she actually still wanted, the relationship and everything, but my dad was just like he was all over the place. I actually have siblings that are my age that that I didn't find out about until I was 16. Um, so so yeah, that was weird. It was a weird. It was yeah, it was a bit yeah, weird dynamic in some instances. So, but yeah, it was good. It was good. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed life. I mean, we got the spankings and stuff, and the school I went to, they handed the cane out. So if you did something wrong, you were in the office, put your hand out, and you got the cane or whatever
Did,
it
did,
is.
did everybody go to the spanking schools? They didn't spank me at school.
Because
No, I didn't.
I got
I
beat at
didn't.
home.
At home, yeah, but not at school.
yeah, at school they didn't play. So, but
Jeez, so
yeah,
you and Amir went to the spanking school.
yeah. So
What country is this in? So I don't go there. I
this
just feel like
is
it's
Bermuda.
different. I feel like it's
This
different.
is
Like
most of the
when
Caribbean.
someone else is spanking you versus your parents, I feel like they're doing it with love and care and concern. Like I want to spank you so you know not to do this again. Versus like some random stranger just hitting you. I'm like, no. I feel like it's.
Well, in school, it doesn't. They become part of you. Like they're not no longer a stranger. If you spend 4 to 5 years with someone, like if you're in a school, you get to know the principal. They know your
Oh, okay.
family. So yeah, So
So
yeah,
it's like an extended family member spanking you.
yeah, pretty much. So,
Got it. Okay. All right. I
and
guess we
that's
school
through the
too.
Caribbean. So basically, the Caribbean. That's just
That's how they
something
get down.
common. Yeah,
They spank the kids at school. Okay.
yeah.
What about you, Amira? Feel free to chime in.
Oh, pardon me. Because I was the only child, I became sort of a brat, and that has affected me in marriage as well. I have the only child syndrome. It is a real thing, and it's like I have a rule with my husband that when we have a room, one side of the room, I don't allow him to touch it. You cannot touch my stuff. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. But he is the man of the house, so he can do whatever he wants, of course. But he knows that I prefer to not even have my space walked on. And that's just part of that only child syndrome. I'm not used to sharing. I'm not used to noise because I didn't grow up in a house full of people. I only had my mother and my father who were out of the house most of the time and the nanny. So I'm not used to a lot of noise. I'm not used to hearing people screaming and kids screaming everywhere. I'm not used to that. I'm used to quiet and, and now since me and my husband, my mother-in-law lives with us. So she's there and then the family comes over and there's kids screaming and that just stresses the ever living. Anyway, so that stresses me out a lot. Let's just leave it there. And then so I'm not used to that and my husband notices that I am very picky and irritable about noise and people touching things and so on because I'm not used to having to share my space or my ears or what have you, my surroundings with others. So it has affected my marriage in that way. But other than that, my upbringing has prepared me for marriage because my parents, they trained me a certain way. They just, I mean, I saw how obedient and subservient my mother was to my father. So because of that, I am the same way. Very much quiet, very much obedient, very much submissive, and wanting to please. I want to please him. I want him to be pleased with me. So the other way is that my mother always kept her appearances up. She never let herself get fat. She never went out of the home with pajamas on, God forbid. My mother, she just acted a certain way, and that has carried on to me as well because I will never let myself get fat. If my arms get past a certain width, I am starving myself for the next 4 weeks. So that's another thing that carried on. Also about strict rules of marriage that women, I don't know, maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, but that women should be a certain way with their husbands. Does that make sense? We don't, we have traditions like, if you do get divorced, if you do separate, that you get no child support, in certain circumstances. The majority of the time, the father takes the children. And our culture is like the children stay with the father past a certain age because that's what we believe, especially at past the age of 9, that children should go to the father. What else can I give you?
Very
I don't
different
know.
than American. That's definitely different.
Very much. I've noticed that Americans tend to hand the children off to the mother and then tell the father to pay. But it's like, why not give the child to the primary provider instead of making the woman suffer with the kids? Well, you see all these situations where a lot of American or Western women are complaining about being single mothers. Oh, it's so hard, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, if the father is willing, they should go to him instead of being with her. And it's also been proven that children are better off living with a single father than a single mother. And I know that may ruffle a few feathers, but it's been proven. Like single fathers raise children better. They just do. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because whatever. We'll get into that later.
Because they
So I have
build with the father.
I have a lot of traditional upbringing, which has carried on to my adulthood and my marriage. So, is there anything else that I'm missing?
No. Oh,
Saida.
So I do agree with Amira to a certain point as a daughter from a single father. And I have a belief and the reason why, because they prepare, as a man, they prepare you to survive. That's what they do. They prepare you to survive. But that also affected me in a way because that lovey, that comfort, that nurture part that a mother should and is the one in charge to give you, I miss that. Like I had it because I used to see my mom, but I never, like when I grew up, I noticed that my dad was not around. He was always working. So the people that always support men, single fathers, are the ones that make it easier for them because a single mother usually don't have much support.
I disagree.
Not always, not always, not always. Yeah, not always. They have the support, but a lot of women decide to go, this is the way that I want to do it. I personally decided that my daughter was 1 year and a half when I split with her dad, and I said, hey, my daughter needs a father who's the best father for her than my own dad. So I came back to his house And since then, we've been here with under his rules and everything. I needed a role, a father role for her life, and he is the one doing that. But a lot of people will not understand that. But a woman is vulnerable when she's on her own. That's for sure. And that's why I think that it has a lot to do. Yes, a father will prepare you for survival, because I can see the difference between me and my youngest sister that was raised by her mother. She lived with my dad to a certain age, but then she moved with her mom. And she is the crazy one that I told you about earlier. So yes, definitely she's more dependent, and I am very independent opposed to her. So I can see what a father or a man can give you in your life, but I also have that part that he didn't. He was not there. He was absent for that part, and someone else was making up for that. If it makes sense.
Mhm.
I just wanted
It
to.
makes sense.